Did you see the news that they're building some kind of gigantic palaces in North Korea? And many analysts are saying that maybe it's for the Russian elite, including Putin. Do they have backup airfields? Well, about a year ago, we talked with you about similar construction projects in China, for example, right? And probably somewhere in Dubai as well, there are some too. Do you think they're already preparing backup airfields for themselves right now, as of today? Thank you.
They have had their financial safe havens set up a long time ago, like 10 or even 15 years ago. So they've stolen billions, stashed them away in different wallets, and all those various friends of Putin and Putin's girlfriends, so-called mistresses, they're all just wallets. In other words, they've sorted everything out in this regard. They surely have numbered accounts in all the closed, in tax havens, so to speak, financial paradises in all the free zones and so on. He has all of that. Physically, I think nothing will save Putin. That is, if he leaves power, if he steps down from his post, then most likely he'll be killed by his own people, by his own circle. In situations like this, when a dictator steps down, well, just look at Bashar Assad. He lives in Moscow now. But is that really a life? Out there, so to speak, far away in the cold? He was used to living in a warm country in the Middle East, the Near East. And now, so to speak, he's fled. He has no social circle there. He has nothing at all there. And he is, so to speak, forced to live in these conditions. Well, just imagine Putin, a man who considered himself the ruler of the world, who was at the head of a nuclear superpower, formerly the largest in the world. And suddenly, even if he has to live in some North Korea, yes, even in the most magnificent palace, it's just not the same anymore. That is, a person who has tasted power no longer needs these palaces. He is no longer satisfied with just material things. He doesn't need money anymore. He doesn't need palaces anymore. What he needs is power. He is already addicted to power. It's a drug, much stronger than money or any kind of popularity. And that's why Putin, I'm sure, will never leave of his own free will again.
And besides, really, well, North Korea, right? Well, what kind of option is that if Kim Jong-un executes his own relatives with cannons, with tanks? No more or less civilized country will accept him unless it's just to use him as a bargaining chip in negotiations. He has 2 warrants from the International Criminal Court. And by the way, it was recently confirmed that no agreements will annul these investigations. And he will still remain wanted. So his future is certainly questionable. As for the black swans that might affect the fate of this barbarian. So look, there is actually some encouraging news coming from the Kursk region. People there have started to protest, to go on strike, because first of all, they were accused of not defending their homes from shelling. Attention. And secondly, their minimal payments and allowances were taken away. People are struggling. They have no money. How promising are such developments? That's the first question. And then, regarding other factors that could now affect the stability of the system.
Well, you know, the complaints being made, I believe those are legitimate complaints. I make the same complaints against Putin. As an officer, a former KGB member who was supposed to protect the KGB, the Soviet Union, and the Communist Party of the Soviet Union, because he took an oath. He broke his oath, he is a traitor, and Patrushev is a traitor, and Bortnikov is a traitor, and all KGB officers are traitors. Why am I able to say this calmly, even though at the same time I was also a senior KGB officer? Because I was on an overseas assignment, I was forbidden to do this, I was not allowed to do it, so I pretend that I actually wanted to grab a Makarov pistol and run off somewhere to defend the Communist Party of the Soviet Union. But my status as an illegal agent did not allow me to do that. But Putin was in a position, in that sense, he was supposed to do it. This is, by the way, the story I told you back in June. In 2023, when Prigozhin marched on Moscow, no one at all came out to defend Putin. Yes, absolutely, no one came out to defend him. And indeed, when the Ukrainians last year in August carried out their first raids and entered the Kursk region, everyone ran away, starting, by the way, with Akhmatsila Kadyrov. The Kadyrovites didn't even notice the Ukrainians, so to speak, and pretended that, well, they didn't need to fight anyone. Because
they got stuck at a traffic light, Sergey. Well, there was an objective reason. I mean, what was the point?
Yes, once again. So in reality, these complaints, well, honestly, that's another matter. The real issue is how much the people making these complaints don't understand that, in fact, no one is actually planning to defend Russia, and that Russia means nothing to them, unlike, for example, the Ukrainians. Because the Ukrainians, even the Russian-speaking ones, even in the East, who were suspected in advance of working for Russia, most of them, by the way, ended up defending their land, their homeland. Because, well, yes, they have their own specifics, and yes, they don't speak it. They don't speak Ukrainian as fluently as the whole country might wish, but nevertheless, they still consider themselves Ukrainians. Whereas in Russia, by the way, in this sense, no one will come out to defend, by the way, neither Putin nor Russia, practically no one. When Putin tried to announce a mobilization, even a partial one, 1 million or 2 people immediately fled, simply not wanting to take part in any mobilization. So this is an old story. But unfortunately, I have to tell you that most likely it will not have any national or federal consequences for the Russian Federation because it concerns very small territories directly adjacent to the front line. Kursk region, yes, but neighboring regions like Kaluga, Tula, and so on, they absolutely don't care. Those regions, Bryansk, Kursk, Voronezh, Rostov, Belgorod region as well. They still understand what this is about. But everyone else simply doesn't understand. And actually, if you look at the Belgorod region, this all started there a long time ago, right from the very beginning, because Ukraine began to strike back at the border areas. And even within that region itself, that is, the southern borders that are adjacent to Ukraine, people have moved 10 to 15 kilometers away from the border. They tried to go somewhere up north, still within the Belgorod region, but people there didn't want to take them in, didn't want to help them at all, because those locals said, like, this doesn't concern us. So it even comes to that. And it's not like this is happening somewhere far away in Vladivostok or Kamchatka. It's right there in the very same region where the fighting is going on, the same thing in Kursk, because these refugees, they came to Kursk, to the capital, and said, give us housing. And the response was, what housing? We need it ourselves here. We've been trying to get it for months or even years. There won't be any housing for you. But they did give them that one-time aid of 10,000 rubles. Some packages, at first they were placed somewhere in some schools, but all that solidarity faded away pretty quickly.